I never thought I'd be sitting in my own bedroom watching my sister-in-law measure my curtains like she owned the place. But there was Sarah, stretching her tape measure across my window frame, muttering numbers under her breath as if I wasn't even there. My name is April, and this is the story of how I learned that no good deed goes unpunished, at least not without careful planning. It started 3 months ago when my brother Leo called me at 11 p.m., his voice cracking. "We got evicted," he said. "Sarah's crying. Caden hasn't stopped asking where we're going to sleep. I didn't know who else to call. I did what any sister would do. I offered them my spare bedroom, thinking it would be temporary, just until they got back on their feet. Leo had lost his warehouse manager position, and they couldn't keep up with rent. It seemed simple enough. "You're a lifesaver, April," Leo had said, hugging me tight when they arrived with their belongings. Sarah stood behind him, mascara-stained cheeks and all, clutching 10-year-old Caden's shoulder. "We'll make it up to you somehow." The first week was actually nice. Sarah cooked dinner every night. Leo fixed that leaky faucet I'd been meaning to repair, and Caden's presence filled the house with the kind of warmth I hadn't realized I was missing. Then came the suggestions. "April, honey," Sarah said one morning, reorganizing my kitchen cabinets without asking. "These pots would work so much better over here. And really, who needs this many mugs?" I bit my tongue. "Those mugs are from my travels." "Oh, but they're taking up so much space." She was already boxing them up. "We need room for Caden's school lunch containers." Leo walked in, saw what was happening, and quickly turned around. "It's just safer to let her take charge," he whispered as he passed me. "Trust me." I started keeping a journal after that day. Something about Sarah's casual dismissal of my belongings made me uneasy. I wrote down everything: dates, times, conversations. Call it paranoia, but something told me I'd need it. The changes came slowly but steadily. My grocery lists were adjusted to accommodate their preferences. My usual Friday night book club meetings were met with increasingly dramatic sighs about the noise. Sarah even rearranged the living room furniture while I was at work, claiming it improved the energy flow. "You're being too nice," my best friend Kinley told me over coffee. "They're taking advantage." I stirred my latte, watching the foam swirl. "They're family. What am I supposed to do?" "Family doesn't mean doormat," she replied, eyes sharp with concern. "And you sold your car to help with the increased utilities. That's not nothing, April." I had. My reliable Honda, sacrificed to cover the tripled water bill and sky-high electricity costs. Sarah had called it the least I could do for family. The final straw came yesterday. I was working late at the office, trying to finish some HR reports, when my phone buzzed with a text from Caden. "Aunt April, Mom's in your room doing something with curtains." I rushed home to find Sarah, tape measure in hand, standing in my personal space like she owned it. When she saw me in the doorway, she didn't even flinch. "Oh, good, you're home," she beamed. "I was thinking cream-colored curtains would really open up the space. These dark ones are so depressing." "Sarah," I said carefully, "why are you measuring my curtains?" She waved her hand dismissively. "Well, since we're going to be here for a while, we might as well make the place look decent. Besides," she added with a laugh that made my skin crawl, "it's not like you're home enough to enjoy it properly." I watched her continue measuring, my heart pounding. Through the open door, I could see Leo in the hallway, purposefully avoiding eye contact. Caden stood beside him, clutching his tablet, looking between us with worried eyes. That's when I knew. This wasn't temporary anymore. This wasn't even about helping family. This was about slowly, systematically erasing me from my own home. I smiled pleasantly at Sarah, excused myself, and went straight to my home office. From the bottom drawer of my desk, I pulled out a leather-bound notebook, the one I'd been keeping since day one. Opening to a fresh page, I began to write. "Dear Diary, today my sister-in-law measured my curtains without permission, and I decided it's time to take back what's mine. But first, I need a plan." I knew something was wrong the moment I pulled into my driveway. The living room window looked different, emptier. When I opened my front door, the space where my beloved leather armchair should have been gaped like a missing tooth. "Sarah?" I called out, my voice steady despite the anger bubbling beneath. "Have you seen my reading chair?" She appeared from the kitchen, wiping her hands on a dish towel. My dish towel. "Oh, that old thing. I sold it on Facebook Marketplace this morning. Got a decent price, too." I set my work bag down slowly. "You sold my chair?" "It really didn't match the energy we're trying to create," she said, gesturing around the room. "Besides, the money will help with groceries this week." That chair was a graduation gift from Mom before she passed. Sarah's face didn't even flicker with remorse. "Well, you should have mentioned that. But honestly, April, it was taking up so much space. Now we can get something more modern." I pulled out my phone and called Kinley immediately, walking straight to my bedroom. "I need a drink, now." 20 minutes later, I was sitting across from Kinley at our favorite bar, nursing a gin and tonic. "She did what?" Kinley's voice carried across several tables. "Tell me your pressing charges." "It's not that simple," I said, pulling out my phone to show her the photos I'd been secretly taking. "Look at these messages from Leo last week." The screenshots showed my brother practically begging me to be patient with Sarah, saying she was just trying to make our home comfortable. "Our home," Kinley repeated, disgusted. "Girl, you need to wake up. This isn't going to stop." "I know," I said, pulling out my notebook. "That's why I've been documenting everything. Every item they've moved, sold, or reorganized. Every bill I've paid. Every conversation where they've promised to start contributing." Kinley leaned forward. "You're planning something." "Maybe." I took another sip. "But first, I need to understand exactly what I'm dealing with." When I got home that evening, Sarah was hosting what she called a family dinner. The dining room table, my dining room table, was set for 3. "Oh, April!" She looked up as if surprised to see me in my own house. "We didn't expect you home so early. You're usually working late on Thursdays." "It's Tuesday," I said, watching Caden's face fall as his mother's lie was exposed. "Well, you're lucky we let you be involved in family dinners at all, considering how little you contribute to the meal planning," Sarah said with a laugh that didn't reach her eyes. I was about to respond when I heard Leo's voice from the hallway. He was on his phone, speaking in hushed tones. "Don't worry, it's our home now. She'll come around." My blood ran cold. I retreated to my bedroom and opened my laptop. First, I emailed my lawyer friend about tenant rights. Then I started researching recording laws in our state. Finally, I created a new folder titled Exit Strategy and began moving files. The next morning, I ran into Caden in the kitchen before school. He was quietly eating cereal while Sarah's voice carried from upstairs, complaining loudly on the phone about living in someone else's space. "Aunt April?" Caden's voice was barely a whisper. "I'm sorry Mom sold your chair. I told her you loved it, but she said I was being dramatic." I squeezed his shoulder. "It's not your fault, buddy." "She says we're going to redecorate your whole house soon," he continued, eyes down. "She showed her friends pictures on Facebook, and they all said it needs updating." My phone buzzed. A message from Sarah in our family group chat that I never asked to be part of. "April, we need to have a serious discussion about the master bedroom situation. This arrangement isn't working anymore." I looked at Caden, then at my phone, then at the empty space where my chair used to be. Something inside me hardened into resolve. "Caden," I said carefully, "would you like to help me with the project? It involves taking pictures and keeping very careful notes." He nodded, eyes brightening with interest. "Good," I said, pulling out my notebook, "because I think it's time for some changes around here. Real changes." As I walked him to the bus stop, I could hear Sarah's friends arriving for their morning coffee clatch. In my kitchen, using my coffee maker, probably sitting on my remaining furniture. But for the first time in months, I smiled. They had no idea what was coming. Sometimes the best revenge isn't served cold. It's served with meticulous documentation and a lawyer's phone number on speed dial. The sound of laughter echoed through my house as Sarah's friends gathered for their third home decor consultation this week. I stood in my kitchen, or what used to be my kitchen, watching them critique every inch of my home. "These curtains are just so basic," said one woman, pinching the fabric between her fingers. "And this wall color? It's practically begging for an accent wall." Sarah nodded sympathetically. "I know, right? We're working on April slowly. She's a bit resistant to change." I gripped my coffee mug tighter, remembering my mother's words. "Never lend what you won't miss." The memory of her voice made my chest ache. She would have seen through Sarah in seconds. "April!" Sarah's voice cut through my thoughts. "We're thinking of moving your bookshelf to the garage. The girls think it's making the living room look cluttered." Before I could respond, my doorbell rang. It was my book club members, right on schedule for our monthly meeting. Sarah's face darkened. "Oh, is that today? I thought we discussed how disruptive these meetings are for Caden's homework time." "Caden does his homework at the library on Wednesdays," I replied, opening the door. "With his study group, like always." My book club members filed in, their usual cheerful greetings dying on their lips as they took in Sarah's friends sprawled across my living room. "We'll just move to the dining room," I said, leading them away. "Actually," Sarah called out, "we're having a family dinner tonight. In the dining room. Maybe you could reschedule?" I turned slowly. "I've hosted book club here for 5 years, Sarah, the third Wednesday of every month." "Well, things change when you have family living with you," she said sweetly. "Right, girls?" Her friends nodded in unison, like a Greek chorus of judgment. I looked at my book club members, my friends, and made a decision. "Let's go to Kinley's place," I said. "She's got a much bigger table anyway." Later that night, after Sarah's friends had finally left, I found a note slipped under my bedroom door. In Caden's careful handwriting, "Sorry they called your room ugly. I like it." I sat on my bed, holding the note, when Leo knocked on my door. "Hey, sis," he said, hovering in the doorway. "Sarah's organizing a family game night on Friday. She thought maybe you could make yourself scarce, just to avoid any awkwardness." "Awkwardness?" I raised an eyebrow. "In my own home?" Leo shifted uncomfortably. "You know what I mean. It's just, her friends are coming with their kids and I'm not family enough to be included. That's not what I—" He trailed off, unable to meet my eyes. "Sarah just thinks it would be better if I disappeared." I stood up, walking to my closet where I'd hidden my documentation folder. Like my armchair disappeared, like my kitchen utensils disappeared, like my dignity is disappearing. "You're being dramatic," he said, but his voice wavered. I pulled out my phone and played a recording from earlier that day. Sarah's voice crystal clear. "Once we get rid of all this tacky furniture, this place will finally feel like our home. April's lucky we're here to fix her taste." Leo's face paled. "You're recording conversations? In my home? Where I pay the mortgage?" "Yes, Leo, I am." I showed him the folder of receipts, photographs, and notes. "I'm recording everything." He backed away slowly. I need to check on Caden." After he left, I heard Sarah's voice from downstairs. "We need to talk about the master bedroom situation soon. This can't wait much longer." I opened my laptop and started typing an email to my lawyer. The subject line read, "Formal eviction notice. Draft review needed." My phone buzzed with a text from Barry, my coworker who'd been showing more than professional interest lately. "Dinner tomorrow? You sound like you need a break from home drama." I smiled, remembering how he'd listened to my venting during lunch breaks, offering quiet support and legal advice. His sister was a real estate attorney. Another text came through, this time from Kinley. Your book club ladies are furious. They want to help. Should I tell them about Operation Take Back? I looked around my bedroom, the only space that still felt like mine, and replied, not yet, but soon. From downstairs, I could hear Sarah planning her game night, talking about rearranging the furniture again. But this time, instead of anxiety, I felt calm. Let her plan. Let her redecorate. Let her play house in my home. Because soon, very soon, she'd learn what my mother's other favorite saying was, karma doesn't need your permission to teach its lessons. I added one final note to my documentation, Day 89, excluded from family game night in my own home. Eviction notice draft completed. We need to talk about the bedroom situation, Sarah announced at dinner, setting down her fork with the precise click of someone who'd rehearsed this moment. Leo sat beside her, suddenly very interested in his plate of pasta. What bedroom situation? I asked, though I already knew what was coming. Well, Sarah leaned forward, her voice dripping with practiced reasonableness. Leo and I have been thinking. The master bedroom really makes more sense for us, as a family unit. I set my own fork down. You mean my bedroom? The one in my house? April, don't be difficult, Sarah sighed. You're just one person. We're 3 people. It's simple math, really. Caden looked up from his dinner, eyes wide. Nobody spoke. We need the space, Sarah continued. The ensuite bathroom would make mornings so much easier with Caden's school schedule. And honestly, she gave me a pitying smile. You're just being selfish at this point. Selfish? I repeated the word slowly, letting it hang in the air. Mom, Caden whispered, that's Aunt April's room. Honey, grown-ups are talking. Sarah dismissed him with a wave. April, we've been very patient. We've tried to make this work, but you're not being reasonable about sharing space. I glanced at Leo, who was still studying his pasta like it held the secrets of the universe. Any thoughts, brother? He cleared his throat. It would help us out a lot, sis. I see. I stood up, walked to the kitchen, and returned with a glass of water. When would you like this change to happen? Sarah's face lit up with triumph. We were thinking this weekend. That gives you time to pack up and move your things to the smaller room. Just like that, I took a sip of water. Well, it's not like you're using this space to its full potential, Sarah said. No husband, no kids. It's really wasted on you. The water glass made a soft sound as I set it down. Let me think about it. There's nothing to think about, Sarah pressed. We've already decided. I cut her off, my voice steel-wrapped in silk. Let me think about it. Later that night, I sat on my bed, in my room, in my house, and opened my bedside drawer. Inside was a cream-colored envelope I'd prepared weeks ago, sealed with red wax like some old-world declaration of war. My phone buzzed with texts. Kinley. She what? Oh, hell no. Barry. Just say the word, and I'll help you move their stuff to the curb. My lawyer. Documentation received. Everything's ready when you are. I heard footsteps in the hallway, Sarah's distinctive click-click of heels. She was probably already measuring my bedroom in her mind, planning where to put her things. Through the wall, I could hear her talking to Leo. It's perfect timing, she was saying. Once we have the master, we can really make this place ours. I picked up my phone and sent 3 messages. To the movers, confirming next week's appointment. To my lawyer, proceeding with Plan A. To Kinley, it's time. Then I reached for my journal and wrote, Dear Diary, today my sister-in-law demanded my bedroom, calling me selfish for wanting to keep my own space in my own home. She forgot one crucial detail. I've been planning for this moment for weeks. A soft knock interrupted my writing. It was Caden. Aunt April? He peeked in. I don't want you to give up your room. I patted the bed beside me. Come here, buddy. He sat down, looking at the envelope in my hands. What's that? Insurance, I said. Sometimes, Caden, when people take advantage of your kindness, you have to be ready to show them the door. Are you going to make us leave? His voice was small. I hugged him gently. I'm going to make things right. That's all. After he left, I placed the envelope under my pillow and got ready for bed. Tomorrow would change everything, but tonight I would sleep soundly in my own bed, in my own room, knowing that Sarah's reign of entitlement was about to meet its match. Just before turning out the light, I sent one final text to Barry. Rain check on dinner. Tomorrow's going to be interesting. His response came quickly. Need backup? I smiled, thinking of the perfectly prepared documents in that cream envelope, each page a nail in the coffin of Sarah's presumptions. No, I typed back. I've got this one covered. I turned off the light, listening to Sarah and Leo moving around in the guest room, soon to be their former room. My mother's voice echoed in my memory. Sometimes the biggest gift you can give someone is the consequence of their own actions. Tomorrow, I would be giving Sarah and Leo a very big gift indeed. Sarah barged into my room at 7 a.m. sharp, not bothering to knock. Have you made your decision about the bedroom? We'd like to start moving things this morning. I was already dressed for work, sitting at my vanity. Actually, yes. I reached under my pillow and pulled out the cream envelope. Here's my answer. She snatched it eagerly, probably expecting a written surrender. The wax seal cracked under her manicured nails. What's this? Her face scrunched as she read the first page. That's a utility bill transfer notice, I said calmly, applying my lipstick. And behind it, you'll find a formal 30-day eviction agreement. It's already been notarized. The color drained from her face. You're evicting us? I'm giving you back the freedom you've always acted like you had, I replied, standing up. 30 days to find your own place, where you can have any bedroom you want. Leo appeared in the doorway, drawn by Sarah's rising voice. What's going on? Your sister, Sarah thrust the papers at him, is kicking us out. Your own family. Leo took the documents, his hands shaking slightly as he read. April, you're really doing this? Read page 3, I suggested. The part about the unauthorized sale of my personal property. Or page 4, which lists the utilities costs I've covered. Or maybe page 5, the documentation of Sarah's systematic harassment. Harassment! Sarah's voice hit a new octave. I was trying to make this place livable. By selling my mother's chair, by excluding me from my own home, by demanding my bedroom. I picked up my work bag. That's not living together, Sarah. That's taking over. We'll fight this, she hissed. You can't just throw us out. Actually, I can. I've consulted with a lawyer. Everything's legal. I checked my watch. I'm late for work. The movers are coming next Wednesday. I've already paid for them. Leo was still reading, his face growing paler. April, please, we can talk about this. We could have talked about it months ago, I said, when Sarah started selling my things, when she started excluding me from family activities in my own home, when she called me selfish for wanting to keep my own bedroom. But Caden, Sarah started, will be better off not watching his mother bully his aunt. I cut her off. Speaking of which, I've documented everything for the custody hearing I'm sure is coming. Leo's head snapped up. What do you mean? Tell him, Sarah, I said softly. Tell him why you really got evicted from your last place. Tell him about the money you took. Sarah's face went from red to white. How did you... I'm an HR director, Sarah. I know how to do background checks. Your former employer was very informative. Leo turned to his wife. What is she talking about? It's nothing, Sarah stammered. She's lying. The eviction wasn't just because you lost your job, was it, Leo? I continued. Sarah embezzled funds from her administrative position. That's why you really couldn't get references for new rentals. The silence in the room was deafening. You told me it was just because of my layoff, Leo said, his voice hollow. Leo, baby, I can explain. Save it, he cut her off, then turned to me. How long have you known? Long enough to realize this wasn't just about needing a place to stay, I replied. This was about taking over mine because you couldn't keep yours. Sarah lunged forward suddenly, reaching for the papers, but I stepped back. Those are copies, I said. The originals are with my lawyer, along with recordings of every threat, every manipulation, every time you claimed this house as yours. You recorded us? Sarah's voice cracked. In my house? Yes, legally. I headed for the door. 30 days, Sarah. Tick-tock. As I walked down the hallway, I heard Leo's voice, tight with anger. What else haven't you told me? I passed Caden's room, where he sat pretending to tie his shoes, clearly having heard everything. Ready for school, buddy? He nodded, grabbing his backpack. As we walked to my car, he asked quietly, Did Mom really steal money? Sometimes, I said carefully, adults make bad choices. But that doesn't mean you have to live with those choices forever. Are we really leaving? Your parents are, I confirmed, but you'll always have a place here when you visit. In fact, I smiled, I might keep your room exactly as it is. As I drove him to school, I could see Sarah through my rearview mirror, standing at the front door, phone in hand, probably already crafting her victim narrative for social media. But for the first time in months, I felt light, free. The way you feel when you finally stop carrying someone else's burdens and remember how to stand up straight again. Leo found me in the kitchen that evening, his eyes red and swollen. She stole $43,000, he said without preamble, from the company's client accounts. I set down my coffee mug. Sit down. I confronted her after you left, he continued, slumping into a chair. She finally told me everything. The eviction wasn't just an eviction. She was running from an investigation. That's why we had to move so quickly. Does she know you're telling me this? She's at a hotel, he said. Took Caden with her. Said she needed space to process my betrayal. He laughed bitterly. My betrayal? Can you believe that? My phone buzzed. A text from Aunt Francesca, who I hadn't spoken to in years. Saw Sarah's Facebook post about you. Called to say she did the same thing to her cousin's family in 2012. Need to talk. Leo, I showed him the text. How much do you really know about Sarah's past? He shook his head slowly. I thought I knew her. We dated for 2 years before Caden came along. But now, the doorbell rang. It was Aunt Francesca, her silver hair wild as ever, holding a manila envelope. You need to see this, she said, brushing past me. When she saw Leo, she stopped. Both of you do. She spread photographs across my kitchen table. Sarah at another family's house. Sarah with different children. Sarah redecorating someone else's home. This was my niece Maria's place, Francesca pointed. Sarah was her husband's cousin. Stayed with them for 8 months. Slowly took over their lives. By the end, Maria was sleeping in the basement of her own home. What happened? I asked. Maria finally kicked them out when money started disappearing from her son's college fund. Sarah moved on to another family, then another. Always the same pattern. She finds someone with a nice home, creates a crisis, moves in, and slowly takes over. Leo's hands were shaking. Why didn't anyone tell me? Would you have believed us? Francesca asked gently. She's very good at what she does. My phone kept buzzing with notifications. Sarah had posted a lengthy statement online about toxic family members and protecting her child from negative influences. She's trying to control the narrative, I said, scrolling through the comments. Look at this. She's telling people I'm mentally unstable, that I'm jealous of her family life. Classic Sarah, Francesca nodded. She'll play victim until she finds her next target. Leo stood up abruptly. I need to get Caden. I can't let her. Wait, I grabbed his arm. We need to do this right. If she's done this before, she'll be ready for confrontation. Just then, my laptop pinged with an email notification. Sarah had somehow gotten into our shared Netflix account and was broadcasting her location. She's doing this on purpose, I realized. She wants us to come after her, to make a scene. She's probably recording everything, waiting for us to snap. Smart girl, Francesca smiled grimly, but I'm smarter. There's something else you should know. She pulled out one final document. Your mother left half the family beach property to you, April. The half Sarah's been trying to convince Leo to claim. Leo's eyes widened. She's been pushing me to contest the will. Said it wasn't fair that Mom left everything to her sisters. Because she knew, I said slowly. She knew about my inheritance and wanted control of it. Another notification popped up. A private message from one of Sarah's friends. Thought you should see this. Attached was a screenshot from Sarah's private group chat. April's just a childless tax write-off in a robe. Once we get the beach property sorted out, she'll learn what family really means. Leo read it over my shoulder and something in him seemed to break. I need to call my lawyer, he said. I want full custody of Caden. Use my study, I offered. And Leo, there's a nanny cam in the living room. It caught Sarah admitting to the embezzlement yesterday. Might help your case. After he left, Aunt Francesca squeezed my hand. You did good standing up to her. Your mother would be proud. I just hope Kaiden's okay, I said, watching another notification pop up. Sarah checking into a motel across town. He's smarter than you think, Francesca said, and stronger. Just like his aunt. My phone buzzed one final time. A text from Caden. Mom's acting weird. She keeps making videos of herself crying. Can Dad come get me? I showed Leo the message, and he immediately grabbed his keys. Before he left, he turned to me. April, I'm sorry for everything. Just bring him home, I said. We'll figure out the rest tomorrow. As the door closed behind him, I looked at the scattered photos of Sarah's past victims and opened my laptop. It was time to start a different kind of documentation, one that would ensure she couldn't do this to another family ever again. Moving day arrived with the subtlety of a thunderstorm. Sarah stood in my driveway, arms crossed, watching the movers I'd hired load her boxes into their truck. You can't do this to us, she announced for what felt like the 100th time. We're family. Your time's up, Sarah, I said, checking items off my list. The 30 days are over. Leo appeared with another box, carefully labeled Caden's books. He'd been staying at a hotel with our son for the past week, ever since the truth about Sarah's embezzlement came out. That's the last of Caden's things, he said, not looking at his wife. Sarah stepped forward, her phone raised. I'm recording this abuse. The internet will see how you treat family. You mean like this? I held up my own phone, playing a video of her selling my mother's chair. Or like this? Another video of her screaming at Caden for warning me about her plans. Or maybe this? The nanny cam footage of her confession about the stolen money. You had no right. In my house? I had every right. I turned to the movers. Everything marked with a blue tag goes to storage unit 47. Everything with a red tag goes to Leo's new apartment. Sarah's face contorted. Leo's what? I signed a lease yesterday, Leo said quietly. For me and Caden. You can't take my son. Watch me. Leo's voice was steel. The judge saw the evidence, Sarah. All of it. Your history of fraud, the pattern of manipulation, the videos of you coaching Caden to lie about April. I was protecting our family. You were protecting yourself, I corrected. Like always. Sarah lunged forward suddenly, her manicured nails aimed at my face. I stepped back, but she managed to grab my shirt, ripping it as Leo pulled her away. Ma'am? One of the movers called out. The police are already on their way. We called them when we arrived, as requested. Sarah froze. Police? Standard procedure, I said calmly, straightening my torn shirt. Given your history of violence during evictions. Aunt Francesca's niece Maria was very helpful with the paperwork. 2 police cars pulled up right on cue. An officer I recognized stepped out. I'd filed a report with her last week, anticipating this exact scenario. Ms. Newman, the officer nodded to me. Any problems here? Assault, Leo said before I could answer. I witnessed it, and I'd like to press charges. Sarah's face crumpled into practiced tears. You can't believe them. They're trying to steal my baby. Ma'am, the officer said tiredly, we have body cam footage of this entire interaction. Please put your hands behind your back. As they led Sarah to the police car, she screamed about betrayal and family loyalty. But her performance was interrupted by a small voice from the front door. Mom, Caden said, stop lying. Sarah went quiet, staring at her son. He walked over to stand between Leo and me. I saw everything, he continued. I'm not a baby. I know what you did. Caden, honey, Mommy loves you. You love controlling people, he said, with the brutal honesty of a 10-year-old, and I don't want to be controlled anymore. The officer gently guided Sarah into the car while another took statements. Through it all, Sarah kept looking back at Caden, but he didn't move from his spot between us. After they drove away, Aunt Francesca appeared with a surprising announcement. The beach property Sarah wanted so badly, I'm adding Caden to the trust, equal shares with April. Leo started to protest, but she held up a hand. That boy deserves something solid after all this, something his mother can't touch. Caden looked up at me. Does this mean we can go to the beach whenever we want? Whenever you want, buddy. I squeezed his shoulder. It's your safe place now. The movers finished loading the last box. Leo turned to me, eyes wet. I don't know how to thank you. You can thank me by being the dad I know you can be, I said, and maybe by joining book club nights with Caden. We're reading Harry Potter next month. Caden's face lit up. Really? Really, I smiled. Family night. The real kind. As Leo and Caden left for their new apartment, Aunt Francesca handed me a glass of wine. You know she'll try again. Find another family, another house. Not with these records she won't, I said, holding up my documentation folder. I've made sure of that. From the driveway, Caden ran back for one last hug. I'm proud of you, he whispered. You're the only adult who never lied to me. I held him tight, watching over his shoulder as the moving truck pulled away, taking with it the last traces of Sarah's attempted takeover. Sometimes, I realized, the best family isn't the one you're stuck with. It's the one you choose to fight for. The sound of laughter filled my living room as Caden read aloud from Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, dramatically acting out Hagrid's parts while Leo attempted a terrible British accent as Harry. My book club members watched in delight, sharing knowing smiles over their wine glasses. Okay, kiddo, Leo said when the chapter ended. Time to pack for the beach house weekend. Can we invite Aunt April? Caden asked, carefully marking his page. Actually, I said, I have a date with Barry tonight. Ooh, Kinley teased from the couch. The workplace romance continues. It's just dinner, I protested, but couldn't hide my smile. As my book club friends gathered their things, I noticed a notification on my phone, a message from an unknown number. My heart skipped when I opened it. Sarah's doing it again, the text read, followed by a link to a Facebook post. There she was, in someone else's home, telling a story about needing temporary shelter for her and her abused son. Dad, Caden called from the hallway. Look what Aunt April's friend sent. Leo read the post, his jaw tightening. I'll call our lawyer in the morning. Already handled, I said, showing them the second message from Maria, Aunt Francesca's niece. Don't worry. I sent the documentation to the family she's targeting. They kicked her out immediately. Good, Caden said firmly. She can't hurt anyone else now. The doorbell rang. Barry, right on time. He entered carrying a familiar package. Is that? I started. Your mom's armchair, he grinned. Found it on Marketplace 2 towns over. The couple was happy to sell it back when I explained the situation. I touched the worn leather, tears threatening. How did you? I had help, he nodded toward Caden, who was practically bouncing with excitement. I remembered the listing number from Mom's phone, he explained proudly. Barry did the rest. Leo cleared his throat. We should get going. Big day tomorrow. As they headed out, Caden hugged me tight. The beach house needs an armchair like this, he whispered, for reading Harry Potter. After they left, Barry helped me position the chair in its old spot by the window. Perfect timing, he said, since you're finally redecorating. I looked around my living room, now filled with colors and patterns I'd chosen, photos of people I loved, books arranged how I wanted them. No more walking on eggshells in my own space. I have something for you too, I said, pulling out my leather-bound journal. The story of how not to let people take advantage of your kindness. The revenge diary? Barry raised an eyebrow. The restoration diary, I corrected, about taking back what's yours. My phone buzzed again. A photo from Leo of Sarah's latest social media post. Homeless thanks to cruel family members. Please help. Below it were hundreds of comments, each linking to documented evidence of her past schemes. Maria had been busy. Karma really doesn't need your permission, Barry mused, reading over my shoulder. No, I agreed, but it helps to give it a nudge sometimes. I closed the journal and set it on my bookshelf, not hidden anymore, but displayed like a trophy. A reminder that sometimes the strongest thing you can do is say, no more. Ready for dinner? Barry asked. Actually, I smiled, settling into my restored armchair. Would you mind if we ordered in? I'd like to enjoy my space tonight. He sat on the couch across from me, understanding in his eyes. Your house, your rules. As we waited for food, I added one final entry to my journal. Kindness isn't weakness. It's just a longer fuse on a better match. And when that match finally strikes, it doesn't just burn bridges. It lights the way forward. A text from Kinley popped up. Book club ladies want to know if next week's meeting is still at your place. I looked around my reclaimed home, at the chair that found its way back, the photos of real family on my walls, the space that was finally completely mine again. Absolutely, I replied. My house is exactly where it should be. Barry raised his glass. To boundaries? I clinked my glass against his. To boundaries, and to knowing when to draw them. Outside, a car pulled away, probably Sarah driving by one last time, looking for weakness. But she wouldn't find any, not anymore. Because sometimes the happy ending isn't about forgiveness or reconciliation. Sometimes it's about closing the door, changing the locks, and finally learning to live in peace with your own choices. And that's the sweetest revenge of all.